This is Donald Trump, and I never listen to None Taken.
Alan, I don't know that I've ever known you with a different configuration of follicular configuration on that.
Oh yeah, it's always been pretty much. I started shaving my head pretty early. It was clear to me I was going bald, and I said, "Fuck it, let's go."
I never asked you these questions before. This isn't how I expected this to go. But I was like, well, I got to segue you, right? Segue you. I've only seen it written down. Segue you.
Segway.
Huh?
Segway. You know, like
the scooters.
Are those still around? I haven't seen one of those in forever.
Remember when the guy died by his off-road Segway going off the cliff?
Yes, I do. I used to have a customer that
I want to invent something that it could kill me in such an epic fashion. Like, that would be amazing, right?
I mean, that's a good way to go out, I think.
Yeah.
I used to have a customer.
Captain Cook. It's like just really doing what you love.
I had a customer that would come in my store on a Segway like back in the like early thousands, and I had to tell him, like, dude, like, you can't be turning around my store in that thing.
You can't segue in here. No segue.
Over you are
Walmart.
There's kids in here. God damn it, dude. I want a fucking kid run over by a Segway.
You remember when those fucking hoverboards came around and they were basically the same thing?
Yeah.
Kids come into your store with the hoverboards.
No, I didn't have that. You know what they have out here now? I see them all the time in Berkeley. Is they have?
Wait, let me guess.
What?
The little Uniball platform thing that you tip forward and back.
They have that. That's not as common. Actually, what's really common in Berkeley specifically, all the college kids have.
Can I guess again?
Sure.
Skateboards.
Yes.
Yeah.
Motorized skateboards. Yep. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
Like got to be like 30% penetration at least. Like,
whoa.
Yeah,
that's barely past the tip. 30% penetration. Write that down.
So back to my bald head. What were we?
Well, do you have any pictures of you when you had hair that you could send?
It's funny you say that because I was talking to Tim and Allison about this the other day. For a while, I had frosted tips like Justin Timberlake style. Because I used to have really curly hair. My hair is naturally curly. I don't have pictures of the frosted tips. Shut
up. Yes, you do.
No, because this was before cell phone cameras.
Oh, yeah. How did we ever take pictures before then? Go to your dad's, find the film.
I had a picture, and I took it to work. Actually, at Bed Bath & Beyond, they had us bring old pictures of ourselves in, and I took it to work, and somebody stole it. I think I know who she was, but anyways, somebody stole it, and I never saw it again.
Are you and her still in touch?
No. This is a different one.
Different one. Alan talks with you.
I do have a picture of me like when I was like, I don't know, 17 or 18 with hair, but it's not. It's just hair.
If you find that, I'd like to put it just for show purposes. That's still not why I'm bringing this up.
Oh, okay. I can go get it right now. I know where it is. But
okay. What side did you part your hair on, or was it too curly? No.
It was too curly. No parts. When I did, it was on this side.
Would you describe it as a Puerto Rican fro?
Sure.
It's just curly hair.
It was just curly hair.
Okay. Not like
shorter on the side.
Can I say Jew fro? Is that okay? Jew fro seems to touch on a couple of touchy subjects, right?
It does.
Like, I feel like black people can't say Jew fro and Jews can't say fro.
Fro.
Write that down.
It wasn't a fro, but it definitely was. It's actually, the style the kids have nowadays, like the sort of
no cap.
It was similar to that. Not quite that extreme, but
all right. Yeah, I want to talk about party.
Why are we asking these questions?
Because there is this like theory of what side men part their hair on and how it's perceived to the people that see them.
Okay, interesting.
And the consensus seems to be that parting your hair on one's left makes a person look competent and masculine. So from your left to the right.
Okay.
So parting your hair on the right makes someone look warm and feminine.
Interesting.
I think this is stupid because if you have a cowlick, you need to part your hair in a certain way. Like
whichever way it works.
Get what you get. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I learned this a long time ago. I never used to part my hair. I used to do it. I just kind of do the messy look. That was my move. But once I heard this, I was like, well, when I started parting my hair, I parted it on the left because I wanted to look competent. And I hadn't heard the feminine, warm and feminine. I had heard untrustworthy. Or because if you look, now that you know this, watch movies, and a lot of like the hair and makeup people will.
The villains will do
they'll have their hair parted on the right.
Interesting.
Yeah. So can you do some Google searches?
Sure. We'll see. I mean,
what side? So
just
pull up a picture of JD Vance.
Okay.
What side does he part his hair on? His left or his right?
So it would be his left.
His left. So he did it. He strategically correct.
Yes.
What side does Donald Trump part his hair?
Okay.
That old quaff.
Trump. Also his
on the left.
Yes, also his left.
Does Kamala Harris part her hair?
I don't think so.
Girls part their hair.
Do they?
What do you mean? Do they?
Sure, they do.
It just like hangs down the front. She just pulls.
Oh, it's like in the middle.
That's Gen Z. She's trying to be Gen Z.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. This was all leading up to how Tim Walz parts his hair. Centrist Tim Walz, right?
Right.
Yeah. Good guy, trustworthy dude. Doesn't part his hair at all. Just horseshoe right down the middle. Horseshoe theory. That's probably what that is referring to. Let's play our opening clip, and we will stop making fun of Alan's hair.
Or lack thereof.
James sent this in. Do you want to know some interesting facts about peacocks?
I do.
Okay. I better share it. That was almost. We're live, Dustin. You don't fuck this up. All right. Get ready, America.
Peacocks.
I keep trying to press buttons over here. I don't want to press a button over here. Okay, I'm ready.
Did you know peacocks refers to the males of the peafowl species? The females are called paginas.
Y'all let me in this damn house.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3. All right, you ready?
I am ready.
Like a 5-year-old vagina.
Are you recording?
Yes. All right. Well, you want to start a show?
Let's start a show.
That podcast is filling your head with garbage.
No offense taken there.
Well, it sounds like none taken. To the Friday Headlines Roundup edition of None Taken, where every week my good friend Alan wrangles up the headlines from all over the internet and we talk them at you. Because I listen to 13 hours of podcasts a day and Alan watches 3 hours of cable news every damn day. So you don't have to. And now, get ready to take a sledgehammer to the Culture War echo chambers.
So, another Friday is upon us. What'll you be doing, Smithers? Something gay, no doubt. What? What? You know, lighthearted, fancy-free. Mothers, lock up your daughters. Smithers is on the town.
Exactly, sir.
Exactly, sir. Exactly, sir. Hey, don't have to worry about that union strike, but there was a time period where the price of your bananas might have gone up, but we stayed the same low price of 11 bananas. Send us your banana money. Join the Patreon at nonetakenpod.com. Save, just take a week off on bananas and it'll get you a whole month of None Taken for the low price of $3 over at nonetakenpod.com. That'll get you a lot of extra bonus material. You get videos of the show that you're watching right now. A lot of the times the show has a video component. I mean, right now, if you didn't know this, we got Beetlejuice over my left shoulder right there. I was cleaning out the attic and I found a large cardboard cutout of Beetlejuice. That's 4 times. Something bad's gonna happen. You know what? It'd be really fun. Everybody says like you don't want Beetlejuice in your life. That looks like a good time.
It does look like a good time. Yeah.
But if I said it enough, if Michael Keaton would just show up, that'd be fine too. Anyway, so nonetakenpod.com. That'll get you the video for the show, but it'll get you more than that. We do a bonus show. It's called a hidden track. Before every show, we do 30-40 minutes of bonus material. You can hear me motherfucking my internet, just getting all irate, doing my best Mike O'Mara impression. for the low price of $3, or a little bit more, $9, or $18 a month. You get a Culture War Veterans T-shirt. I don't care what you join at. Just join the party. We want more people in there. Well, I don't mean to say there aren't enough there already. I just mean
join the party.
Join the party. Yeah.
Get in here.
Yeah. Give us fucking banana money, okay? We know what to do with it better than you do. God, you don't need that many bananas. They're going to go bad.
Potassium's not that great. No.
We'll say that to Borat. The number one exporter of Kazakhstan is potassium. You know, I've looked it up before. Not a very high exporter of potassium. It's like you just picked something.
Really?
You know, of all the misinformation from Borat, the movie,
the potassium is the one.
Potassium is the one that really stood out to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Not when he talks about the Jews doing 9/11 or. Throw the Jew down the well. That's a good song. It's a good song. It's in the soundboard for a reason because I like the way the song sounds. You know, he's Jewish. It's fine, Alan. He can say it, not me. God.
Back to the Patreon.
You should talk.
So yeah, join the Patreon, $3 a month. You get all that extra stuff. Also on the Wednesday show, you can actually watch along the videos that Dustin plays for me. You can see them too. So you get that visual component, which is fun. Also at untakenpod.com, you got our merch store over there. You can get some cool hoodies, t-shirts, mugs. Holiday season's coming up, so you know. Get your friends some cool Nuntaken merch.
Yeah, honestly, you could get a friend We Say Cunt in This House mug. That is a very appropriate gift.
Or Alan's Edging Service t-shirt. That would also be cool. I'm sure
the boys are edging.
Me and the boys are edging. Yeah, everything you need Nuntaken is at nuntakenpod.com. All the social feeds, the RSS feeds, everything is there. Nuntakenpod.com. Go check it out. Also, don't forget, support the people that support us. Slickestdigital.com for all your SEO and marketing needs. Slickestdigital.com.
Good guy.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the show. We made it to another weekend. The weekend is here. Have a fucking can of beer. Let's go.
In lieu of a can of beer, did you see Andrew's picture in the group chat? No, of course you didn't. So Andrew posted a picture in the group chat of him checking out at like Safeway, and he had a bottle of Monkey Shoulder, a stick of butter, and a Slim Jim.
That sounds about like
I shared that, and Natasha saw it in the story, and she thought I had bought some Monkey Shoulder. She's like, "Oh, I love Monkey Shoulder," so I had to go buy Monkey Shoulder on the way home from work today.
Nice,
and that's what I will be imbibing.
Is this your first time sampling it, or have you had it?
No, I've had it before. Come on, I'm not a child. I mean,
I don't think I've ever had Monkey Shoulder.
Oh, okay. I will be imbibing it out of my new double wall insulated rocks glass that it's birthday month. And I was permitted to open it one birthday present early tonight so that I can not have a sweaty glass while I watch the show.
Very nice.
Alan, I will allow you to steer again while I.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Andrew does love his whiskeys. He's a big whiskey guy.
Oh, God. I tried to play it for sound effect and I poured a lot.
This is a shorter show, so you're going to be okay. You know, it's not the 4 hours.
That's a good point.
So we're gonna be all right.
I keep threatening to let you talk, and I keep interrupting.
I'm going to go ahead and dive into the first headline here. A federal judge unsealed a 165-page court motion that outlines special counsel Jack Smith's allegations.
It's silky, Alan. I would describe it as silky.
Very nice.
Smooth. Fruity.
Smooth.
This was a particular.
All right. You know.
Lighthearted, fancy-free.
All right.
Jack Smith's allegations that former President Trump resorted to crimes to stay in office after.
Don't let me interrupt this one so much. What happened?
After the 2020 presidential election. So this was filed a week ago or so. We knew about that. It was essentially Smith's response to the Supreme Court ruling saying that Trump had this huge amount of presidential immunity. And so saying that they had to change the indictment essentially to accommodate that. And so
is this the mini trial or is this the refiled indictment?
This is the refiled
in a different circuit saying, okay, fine, here is the January 6th trial.
It's still Chutkan. It's still the same judge. And essentially what the Supreme Court had said was, look, Chutkan, this is our ruling on presidential immunity. Deal with it. And you're going to have to figure that out.
So this is the mini trial? No,
this is the main one.
Okay.
And so Smith was like, you know what, let me help you out with that. We're going to refile it based on what we interpret the Supreme Court's ruling to impact this case. And so
because he said he has immunity. I mean, how does this matter if he has immunity?
well, so there's
called a softball, Alan. Here you go.
So the Supreme Court essentially laid out, well, some might say 3 different versions of immunity and some might say 2, but so there's things where he is acting as the executive and he is 100% immune. You can't go there, you can't touch it. Then there are things where he is presumptively immune. So on the face of it, at first glance, we think he's immune. However, if you as a prosecutor want to attempt to make an argument to overcome that presumed immunity, you can do that. And maybe that's a possibility. Maybe that's on the table. And then there are things which he is clearly doing as a public person, not as acting as an executive. And those things clearly are not immune. And so that was kind of how you have to split the baby.
Whoa.
Now,
Wait.
now that middle one,
wait, what about electrocute the baby or
execute? So that middle part, the whole
We
presumed,
execute the baby.
Okay.
the presumed part, there's probably some justices on the Supreme Court that don't even think that middle ground exists. There's only
Right.
8.
So like when they're saying, so basically Jack Smith said this is not him as a president, this is him as a losing presidential candidate.
Yeah, this is him
This is
acting
him.
as
These
a
are private acts, basically,
candidate.
right?
Yeah.
And I heard that explanation of why this is important, and I was like, not to enough of the Supreme Court. I think most of the Supreme Court's going to be like, no, he was still the president at the time, and we can find ways of saying he was doing this as the president.
So
Is
I
that
think
different from what you were just saying?
I think it is a little bit different. I think that there are gray areas. So, for instance, his interactions with Mike Pence was that he is the president. That is his vice president. So when he interacts with Mike Pence, is that just immediately immune, or is it in the gray area? And then you can determine there are maybe times where he interacts with Pence. That is certainly he is acting as the executive and he is 100% immune. And then there are times where it's more of a gray area and you don't know. Like, is he actually
they'll error the gray areas in his favor?
So is he
Like,
actually
we don't
acting?
know.
Is he actually acting as the executive or as a candidate when he talks to him privately without White House counsel present, only his private counsel present, and kicks everybody else out of the room and says, I want to talk to you, and then tells him, you know, if you don't overturn this election, hundreds of thousands of people are going to hate you. It's going to be a disaster.
That sounds like a private act. That, I mean,
Right.
especially if you only have your private counsel there.
Right.
I mean,
Now-
you made the decision of kicking the White House counsel out of the room.
Exactly. So that's the argument that Smith makes.
Is that the context of? But that's different because there's a quote about him with Mike Pence. Do you have that front of mind at all?
Which one?
In this
plenty.
indictment.
Oh yeah, there is a quote wherein he is sitting at the dining room table, I believe, in the White House by himself, and an
Catch up on
aide
the walls.
and an aide comes in and says, "Hey, Mike Pence's life is in danger because of what's happening at the Capitol," and he says, "So what?" So that was kind of a big quote that came out of there. Is that the one you were talking
Yeah,
about?
that was what I was talking about. There was another one where he was like, he was like, you need to. They were like, you lost, and he's like, I don't care, go fight or something. Do you have that quote? at all?
So there is a White House aide overheard him talking to his family. I would guess probably Ivanka and maybe Jared. I don't know. Doesn't specify, but he says it doesn't matter if you lose.
A New York financier, Jared Kushner.
Yes, he said. So it just says family in the motion, but so they overheard him saying, it doesn't matter if you win or lose, you have to fight like hell. And so they're saying he's clearly not acting in the executive there. He's talking to members of his family about his campaign as a part of that campaign.
And using the context of having lost and saying do it anyways.
Yes. Yeah. So I guess there's kind of two parts to this.
Well, hold on. So saying that they need to fight like hell is different than instructing the mob to fight like hell.
He says, well, we also have him on tape saying that,
Well, but just because it's the same language in both instances doesn't mean that it's,
right.
It's the same.
But because he was speaking in what he probably presumed was private to members of his family about his campaign, they're saying that should be admissible. So there's basically two parts to this motion. Essentially, is one part is where he sort of lays out all the things that he did and people around him did leading up to the events of January the 6th. And there's a little bit more detail than we already had from the congressional trial or congressional hearing on Jan 6. There's some specific things like him speaking to Steve Bannon before he put out the tweet about it's going to be wild on January 6th at the Capitol. And then Cheese Bro talking
I forgot that's his real name. I'm like, why are you saying words like Cheese Bro?
Talking to a fellow attorney and saying when he sees the tweet, saying, "Oh, I think we have some inside information to what he means because they had been talking about this behind the scenes." And also a part of one of his campaign members saying, "We need to make them riot." There's literally quote marks.
We need to make what right?
We need to make the people riot on January 6th to overturn the election, is what's implied by that statement.
I don't understand. Talk to me like I'm really, really dumb. We need to make who right? We need to make the people
at the Capitol
riot.
Oh,
did you say right or riot?
Riot.
Oh,
yeah. We need to make them riot.
Who said this?
An unnamed campaign advisor in the motion. Obviously, the name is there; it's just redacted, but we don't know who that is. But so there's that stuff, which is I would say is sort of we knew a lot of this. If we didn't know it exactly, we were adjacent. So it's kind of ancillary to what we already knew about what was going on behind the scenes before January the 6th. And then there is the response to the Supreme Court and essentially saying, I think this tweet should be admitted because he's clearly talking as a candidate, not as, a member of the executive branch. I think that when the testimony about Pence having to go to Congress to sign the slate of electors, right? All of that should be admissible because he's acting as part of the legislative branch, and Trump, the executive branch, has no part in doing that. So any of those interactions are completely, on the table. So we have the extra, bonus stuff that we didn't really know, and then we have Jack Smith's argument for why he thinks these particular set of facts should be admissible, withstanding what the Supreme Court ruled.
When does anything is this the last time we talk about this until 2026 or what?
November 7th is the deadline for Trump's team to respond, his legal team to respond to this.
File a delay.
So that's 2 days after the election, right? 5th, I think.
By the way, this is happening now because Trump delayed instead of it being addressed a year and a half ago or whenever they first tried it. Okay.
Yeah, and they fought like hell to not allow this to be unsealed. They did not want this to be out there, and they're still saying it shouldn't have been allowed.
But it's like this is happening in a normal process. It's happening now because you made it happen now.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not going to be said by a lot of people on half of the news networks.
For sure. And I appreciate you saying it. So it was a pretty big deal. I mean, we kind of, we talked about it on the show when he filed it because we knew what was essentially why he was doing it, but we didn't have all the details that we have now. So,
hearing those details makes me think that there's other details that they know that they're like, that doesn't work with our case, but it's pretty damning. And you know what I mean?
Well, there's even stuff in this motion where he says, look, we're not planning to bring this to trial, but just so you know, this happened and we think this should be, part of the story. And so this makes that sort of
they've brought extra information that's like context for things that are part of the indictment.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hurricane Helene's death toll reached 194 people. Yesterday, was this yesterday or maybe Tuesday?
It was yes.
Okay, yesterday, President Biden and Vice President Harris visited heavily affected areas of North Carolina. Second part of this headline, Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas said that FEMA, with another hurricane expected. Sorry, let me say this again. Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas said FEMA, with another hurricane expected, lacks sufficient. I pronounced the C. Sufficient funds to address the remainder of hurricane season. It's birthday season. How dare you? So the lack of funds, does that have to do with the fact that Republicans won't fund the government and they have to do these patch mechanisms to get things through till December?
Essentially, yes. What they're asking for is for Congress to fund the FEMA additionally because of the nature of the hurricane season so far. And it
hasn't been that bad. Going into this season, they said that, it's such a warm Gulf. We're going to have We're going to have more named storms than ever recorded. And I think the average number of named storms is like 14, and we've only had like 11 or something like that.
Rolling
Now,
on age.
there's a month and a half. There's a month and a half left.
That's 8.
What?
8.
What?
It goes by letters, right? So we're on age.
Okay, so we're at like 8. Yeah.
We're at 8.
So we're not at like the average or the current average. Now, that said, I wouldn't be so bold to say like we got through hurricane season with a bad one that hits a bunch of people in a way that wasn't expected. There's plenty of time for it to get fucking bad.
Yeah, there's still a lot of time left in the
and there's
hurricane
Kirk
season.
or something. Is that the one that's in the middle of the Atlantic right now? I think there's like a Kirk going on.
Oh, is there? What happened to
Yeah,
I
there's-
and J? Were those ones not big enough? Didn't notice. So yes, but the destruction in North Carolina has been really bad, and so that's going to take a lot of funds to fix that. And so they're just saying, hey, just if we have a couple more really bad storms, the money isn't enough, so we need more. That's what
There's a
they're saying.
Hurricane Kirk in the middle of the Atlantic, and behind that is a tropical storm Leslie.
Oh, okay. So then that would be
I don't know what happened to I and J.
IJKL. So that would be 12. Yeah.
Okay.
So that would be 12. So some of those tropical storms do get named if they're big enough, but maybe they don't get
And
big
then they
enough.
don't end up making land, or they just deal with
There's a lot.
it's a bunch of Puerto Ricans down there. Sorry, what do we say they are? Carabiners? What? It's a climbing device.
Climbing gear, yeah, I'm aware.
I have this as a suggestion for the t-shirt design. Training.
Oh, I like it.
So it's a
The
silhouette of a
puzzle.
train with the autism square puzzle pieces coming out of the
I
steel
like it.
stack.
Who submitted that?
AI, but it can't fucking do it right, so I have to do the rest manually.
Oh.
Thank God it has a human touch in it.
Nice.
Dude, I haven't thought about Mayorkas. This is unrelated to any of this.
Okay.
I'd like to talk more about the hurricane.
You want him to be impeached? No.
Well, so like how they keep calling Kamala Harris the border czar, and like I don't have any conflict with that. I think that she was tasked by the president to deal with source cause of immigration. That's true.
It was
But
part
like,
of her portfolio.
but like, isn't the head of Homeland Security the border czar?
Yes.
I would think so, right? Like I feel like we have a border czar. It's the guy that's in charge of like border patrol and all of that.
Mhm.
Okay, that's a thought I've had for a long time, and I just never had a good time to get that thought out. Dude, there is, when we played that clip on the big show last week where Congressman Nice Guy said all the right things and we heard all the right noises and we are like, wow, what a good guy. We love that guy.
Yeah.
I had a listener point out that like family members of them are affected by this, and they're getting notifications. They can get text messages in, but they can't send text messages out. Like they didn't know that, by the way, rest in peace, Chris Christopherson died. We didn't even talk about that. They didn't know Chris Christopherson died. They didn't know that the guy from American Pickers died, Alan. Did you know about this?
I don't think I did know about that.
These people in the hurricane affected area, they don't even know about that. Their American Pickers lore is not up to date.
He's from there, I think.
Probably.
Yeah.
But more importantly, though, like they're getting messages saying like, go to our social media and find out where the food drops are going to be. And like, I can't get on social media. Like it does seem like a blundered
response.
Yes. Now I know, because we've talked about it, there are thousands of people and multiple agencies and multiple states involved in the rescue attempts. But I mean, there's like bodies stuck in the river that they're not retrieving because they're looking for people
People
for
that might
missing
be alive.
that are
Yeah.
missing, yeah. And like that's gonna get a lot of people fucking mad, man. Like I don't know how you handle it better from the like top down in terms of the president pre-authorized everything, raising spending limits on FEMA and stuff like that. But this is not a good response.
I know they are deploying active duty members of the military there. So the National Guard's already there, but they're actually supporting them with active duty military members.
But there were people that were like in bases in that area that were getting ready for their deployment to the Middle East instead of right over there, which is not necessarily the role of the military, but
right. Well, they are deploying them now. So that I saw that headline today, or that come across my screen today. So that is happening. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say in the thick of it. Probably will know. I'm sure, dude. Situations like this, there's always,
There's always
hindsight,
reasons to be outraged with the
in
failure.
hindsight, you can always look back and say, yeah, we could have
We're
done
not in
that.
hindsight right now.
I know, but that's what I'm saying is we're in the
You got to wait until we're in hindsight to get upset about it.
No, I'm just saying we don't know the scope of it. I don't think this is a Katrina level of incompetence as far as response.
But just like Katrina, the initial storm was so bad, but then the issue was how poorly it was managed after that, and how not necessarily how poorly, but how much worse it got after the fact. Because with Katrina, it was the levees breaking a day or two later, right? Like,
and just the lack of like urgency, a sense of urgency to react.
And
I'm
not seeing that.
I'm not seeing that. Yeah.
But do you remember? I vividly remember, and the reason I'm saying this is there was a picture of Kamala Harris, or it was news reports. Sorry, there was news reports of Kamala Harris flying over the affected area, and that instantly drew back a memory of pictures of George Bush looking out the window. Don't you remember how much George Bush got motherfuckered for not landing? Because he didn't want to make a scene. In New Orleans. So he had flown over in a plane to look at it, and like the media never let him get over. They never got over that. They were deservedly so. They gave him a ton of shit because he just flew over it. Like, hi, I'm the president. I'm waving. Look at that.
That's where we got George Bush doesn't care about black people.
That's how we got Mark Robinson says Kamala Harris doesn't care about white people. Like and share. It's on our Instagram.
All right. The Biden administration.
Mike Myers.
The Biden administration further tightened asylum restrictions unveiled in June that halt claim processing, enabling quick removal at certain border encounter levels. So actually, they're getting some criticism about this
from the left.
Yeah. So essentially, the way that the stuff that had come down in June was, unless we have less than, I think it's like 2,500 people attempting to cross the border and claim asylum for over 7 days, that we're not going to process any at all.
Say that again.
So if you,
I knew there was like quotas and thresholds, and if that's
there's
numbers, they would elevate how strict they restrict things, right?
Right. And so at the threshold, I want to say it was 2,500 per day. It had to be lower than that for a 7-day window for them to process asylum claims. If it wasn't, then they would not process those claims.
Okay.
And so since they instituted that in June, it has never gotten below that threshold.
Okay.
The whole time.
Okay.
And so the criticism is, why are you lowering the threshold and
if it's already been bad?
Making the window larger when it's never even gotten below that. So this lowers it to, I want to say 1,500 per day over a 30-day window. And so the criticism is like, well, you're doing this because the election's 2 months from now, a month from now. And so
it's also not peak migrant season.
Right.
It's birthday season.
Peak migrant season. So the criticism is that this is a political move and that it's not actually substantial, because
I would agree with that criticism. My thought while you read this was like, well, it's election year.
I tend to agree with the criticism as well, honestly. So
I also think that it's a good move. I mean, I think that it doesn't really matter that they've had high numbers anyways. That number, I think having a strict threshold of that is helpful. You're not saying I don't want any asylum seekers, but you're saying we can't handle this if you're going to overload our system.
And you're disincentivizing people to come because they know that the likelihood of getting through is minimal.
Do not come.
I guess the counter argument to that is that there are people who are genuinely in shitty situations.
Yes, so now because there is such and if it's bottlenecking and you're lowering the threshold, then it's always going to be a bottleneck, and it's only going to get worse.
Right. And so
you're not solving the problem that way.
Yeah, perhaps there should be a mechanism to determine more specifically, like
we'll deal with that in November.
Who is in really dire need of getting out of the situation?
Because that's the whole thing, is that you're not going to get asylum if you don't come here through the appropriate
official.
Right.
Eventually, right.
Sure wish they passed that bipartisan bill, man.
I do too.
An attorney representing accusers said 120 people will file suits against Sean Diddy Combs, alleging decades of R-word and sexual misconduct, rape and sexual misconduct. I just keep thinking about how like 3 weeks ago I was on the show being like, did this guy get away with it? How come nothing's ever happened to him? And then it's like lube, freak offs, basketball courts. That video you sent me was dumb, by the way. They were like Puffy killed Biggie. It was like Puffy killed Tupac. Okay. But he's like, nope, he was trying to kill Biggie and Tupac because they were going to form their own record label. It's like, did you listen to Hit 'Em Up? Tupac, maybe I could imagine Biggie finding some like forgiveness in his heart, but Tupac was never going to be friends with anybody on the East Coast. Like, I say it on the show all the time, but like, there's a couple other people on the song Hit 'Em Up doing a couple of verses, and I feel like they were like, okay, I did my verse, and then at the very end, Tupac's like, my fault, make sure none of y'all kids grow, and they're all looking at each other like, fuck you, I already recorded my line. Like,
did he just
be in here? Like, I thought we were having some fun. Like,
right, yeah. All right, so get back to the mission at hand here. So 120 suits. This is not a class action suit. There's 120 separate suits.
oh wow,
This is the first time that minors have been implicated, as young as 9 years old.
God.
There are allegations of this is stuff going back to the early 90s, as from like 1991 to as recent as this year. These suits are that's the time frame that these suits cover. The lawyer says that he has another at least 100 possible potential cases that he may take as well. People are just crawling out of the woodwork.
Another 100?
Yeah. Now
there's got to be some moral panic to it, though. Right?
I would say there's potential for people just trying to, get in on the gravy train. But that said, that's a lot of people.
Better listen to them.
Yeah. So it seems to be about half men, half women. A lot of them were people who were trying to break into
a true centrist. I mean, a true bisexual.
Equal opportunity.
Equal opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of them seem to be people who were attempting to break into the music industry, and he was sort of the gateway. He was the gatekeeper that they were trying to get past. So again, just disgusting use of power if the allegations are true, and I think at least some of them likely are. So pretty gross. And this is so I said on the show before, all the allegations previously never mentioned minors. They were that makes it a lot better, but at least it wasn't minors. But now, as I said, people as young as 9 years old are saying that they were sexually abused by him.
What is and we don't know anything about like the context of that. It was just like, I mean, well, because like, are we talking about like Justin Bieber's?
Have you seen that video?
No, I haven't. I've heard people refer to it. Can you enlighten me?
There's a video of him. It looks like he's in a studio.
Of Bieber
with Sean in looks like a recording studio.
Please, Mr. Daddy.
Yeah. Okay. And he Diddy says to him, "Hey, I see you blowing up. You're playing arenas and stuff like that, but you don't take my calls anymore." And
where was Usher when this was happening?
Good question.
I'm sorry, Usher.
And you can see like Bieber's reaction. It just, I mean,
describe what you're talking about?
So
he like comes up to him like from
he's like standing next to him, almost like embracing him, right? And he's like, "Hey, I see you blowing up and all this stuff, but you don't return my calls. You didn't want to hang out with me on your birthday." And you can see Bieber's reaction.
Did it imply that they had met in the past already?
Oh, they definitely knew each other. It's obvious. So he's a little bit older, but he's still a kid. Like he's maybe, I don't know, 17 or something in this video, maybe older than that, but he's a young kid. And you can see Bieber sort of recoil, and he's like, "Yeah, like I guess my people didn't, get through to me." Like he's kind of stammering, trying to respond to it. And he's like, but he pulls out his phone. He's like, "I have a new number. I'll give you my number, and then you can reach me." And just the look on Combs' face is very much a guy in power who is like squeezing the worm.
I was gonna say predatory.
Yes. And Bieber is the guy being predated. Yes. Yeah. It's pretty, I mean, knowing a lot of stuff we know now, even if you didn't know that, if you saw that video, you'd be like, something's going on here.
Really?
Like, there's some weird shit happening. Pretty gross stuff.
I'm okay changing the subject.
Yeah, let's do that. All right, where are we?
Georgia.
A Georgia judge overturned the state's abortion ban upon cardiac activity.
Heartbeat bill.
Yeah, saying it violated state constitution,
'Cause
allowing
it said it was
abortion.
like 6 weeks, right?
Yeah, allowing abortion to resume until viability.
But it
I
won't because allowing it to resume implies that the infrastructure and the people willing to do this and put themselves at
are
risk
actually going to do it.
are gonna do it in an environment where I mean, there's been a chilling effect because of all these lawsuits. Please go on.
There has. There was a quote in his ruling that I thought bared repeating. He said,
There's repeating now.
"Liberty in Georgia includes in its meaning, in its protections, and in its bundle of rights, the power of a woman to control her own body, to decide what happens to it and in it, and to reject state interference with her health care choices." So that was his interpretation of their constitution.
This is a judge in Georgia?
Yeah. So I thought that line was impressive.
So I've heard a lot of people after the debate, because abortion came up in the debate, being critical about how okay, I've heard John Ziegler say this, and he says this all the time. He's like, Democrats won't just answer at what point they think an abortion should be illegal. They won't, because they want it up to and after birth. And I'm like, no, they don't. They want it the way it was prior to Roe versus Wade being overturned,
Right.
which is pretty much the consensus of after viability, you should not have an abortion, with the exception of, you know, case by case situation.
Yeah.
And that case by case situation should be the health of the mother, something horrible with the child, something like that, where it would be palliative care type things, right? And you should make this still legal. And I'm doing quotes for legal because it's, if you deny the option, you create situations where horrific things can happen. And if you keep that available for humane situations, for either the mother or palliative care for, you know, a child that's going to die seconds after it starts, you know, leaving the womb.
Mm-hmm.
When you remove that option, nobody fucking wants those, right? Yeah, you'll hear people argue for that being available, but they don't want those. And I just get disgusted with the way that it's always been framed, right? So like 6 weeks, people don't even know if they're pregnant at 6 weeks, right? Let alone have time to schedule an appointment and show up for it without it going past some mythical deadline. Now, like, it's for almost as long as we've used this phrase pretty much exists for this reason. Abortion is not a new thing. It's just become more humanely done in the more recent decades, generations. But for over a century, they've called this time period the quickening. And the quickening is referring to the time period once the child is viable, once it's in that stage of development inside the womb. So that's about 22 weeks. And now guess what? Excellent news. As medical advances go forward, that number is going to get closer and closer and closer. We'll maybe get to a point where we can do an artificial womb and children can be born outside of the womb. And people will want that.
Yeah.
And you can have that child born outside of the womb, like that in some medical womb enviirment.
Yeah, as medical technology improves.
Pro-life groups will say that that's an abomination or something, so that they can have control over people's bodies more because they're obsessed with it. But like, not all of them. Now I find it so disgusting that people misinterpret this and they say things like, "Oh, well, that nobody's died from these laws," and they're like, "Oh, well," they cite that example of that woman in Georgia where they were under the 6-week rule, so they went to like North Carolina, somewhere where they could actually have the abortion. I'm maybe getting my states wrong, right? But they went to a state where they could have an abortion. They got stuck in traffic and they missed their appointment window, and they were calling the abortion clinic, and they were like, "Just come on in, we'll give you the pill version of it." They gave her the pill version. She went home. She had complications from it. She doesn't live in the state that she had to go to get the pill version because the state she lives in doesn't allow her to do that. So when she started having complications from the pill version, she couldn't go to her doctor because her doctor wouldn't be able to treat her right for it. And she didn't feel comfortable being honest with her doctor. She ended up bleeding out and dying. Now, people choose to ignore as much of that story as they can to be like, she had a complication with her health care. No. How did that complication exist? Because they created this 6-week deadline. Put it back to 22 weeks viability, something like that. You don't have to put it in stone, because if you put it in stone, you're going to make it illegal for cases that threaten the mother and palliative care cases. like that's why Roe was fucking fine.
Yeah. Yeah,
And it
absolutely.
ignores the fact that the driving force for repealing Roe versus Wade was largely conservative groups that ultimately want any form of abortion to be outlawed. So they aren't even happy with how things are now at the states level. That's just their next fight.
Yes.
And
And
once they're
now,
done arguing over this one, they're going to move on to that phase. And like I believe them because that's what they've told us. I'm not, making a boogeyman out of this and pulling up, hypothetical scenarios. These are documented.
yeah, yeah, and I mean, so cases like that, the woman that you spoke of, are not common, fortunately, but they do happen, and laws like this, when they impact people's lives in that way, even if it's rare, are abominable, and they should not be in place. And I quoted that specific line that the judge said because I thought that was impactful in that he's saying that this matters. And this is why, because a woman should have a right to have control over what happens to and in her body. That's part of the freedom guaranteed by that Constitution, he believes.
I mean, that's what appealed to me when I spent so much of my life as a libertarian is like I should have say over what I do and what I put into my body, so that's drugs, that's whether or not you should have a choice of what goes forward with your body and things that happen to you. And it baffles me to especially see that side. The libertarians just become ultra conservatives instead of, I always viewed libertarians as something that sort of like straddled the left and the right, but sort of like at an elevated, three-dimensionally instead of, a left and right axis, there was, something above it that sort of touched a little bit on both. And a lot of libertarians they've just moved more right, just very far right.
Yeah, just super conservatives.
Which is the way the left always saw them. Like I was listening to Ezra Klein, and he was like, you can make this spectrum, and it goes conservative, far right, and then libertarian. I'm like, how dare you? And I was like, well, actually, that's why I'm not a libertarian anymore. So I guess you got a point.
Yeah. All right. I believe it's your turn.
The Ukrainian military withdrew from the frontline town of Volodar. In its eastern Donetsk region after 2 years of Russian attempts to take the city. So you look at this town and it's just like completely decimated. And like even the drone footage where Russia's like, we're on the rooftop, we put a flag up, and they zoom out with their drone and it's just a leveled city. It's like, okay, you got it. You win.
Yeah, I mean, so strategically it's on a hill, and it's near some railways. And so they have more vantage over to what the Ukrainians are doing, and it kind of helps secure their logistics as far as moving,
especially as their logistics in southwestern Russia are compromised
because of Kursk. Yeah. So this has been a long, hard fight, but it is
it's a Pyrrhic victory.
Yeah. But it is
about
it is still a loss. And yeah. Man, you know what? It just popped in my head because I said hill. Is we use the term a hill to die on.
Oh my God, I've had a question in our sheet for a long time,
and it's just like, fuck, man. I mean, that was based on like Civil War shit, and it's like people are still dying on hills, dude. For what?
Do you have a hill to die on?
Oh, huh.
That's just a segue to get to another question. So answer as much as you feel like.
I don't have one that comes immediately to mind. No.
Do you think, we talk about our Supreme Court as being ideologically driven, right? And maybe that means they do have a hill to die on. Maybe they don't. Maybe they're kind of wishy-washy depending on what's ever good for the power balance that's, best for their ideology.
Perception, yeah.
Do you think that especially when we have people that have been compromised like Alito and Clarence Thomas, do you think Clarence Thomas has a hill to die on?
Yeah, his RV.
Oh, I got a better answer than that.
Okay, do tell.
Anita. You remember Anita Hill?
Of course I remember Anita.
Yeah, the Coke can. Yeah.
Listeners, if you don't, Google it.
That's a good joke. That's good joke.
That's a very good joke.
I didn't know how to make it a joke. I was just like, Anita Hill to die on. That
was a good joke.
I think it's your turn.
It is. Israel expanded its evacuation warnings in southern Lebanon while airstrikes continue in Beirut.
That is an outdated headline. Have you seen the explosions in Beirut? Bob Foster's been sending shit in the group chat, And it's just like he's been on the live streams on YouTube watching it, and it's just it reminds me of shock and awe during the initial phases of Gulf War II.
Yeah.
And but the thing is, man, I mean, it appears to be a bunch of secondary explosions. So it's like now would have been cool if there was a lot of secondary explosions in Gaza, but we can forget about that and just be like, look up here now, over here.
Yeah. True. That's all. I was trying to think of a way to respond.
I know I put you on the spot with something different.
I mean,
go on with what you were gonna say.
Yeah, no, it's what's in Bad Boys, the original one.
It's always Bad Boys with you.
He looks at, he's like, it's like fucking Beirut up in here. What happened?
Dude, right? I remember when I said that on our last show, is like if someone's talking about terrorism and buses exploding and suicide bombers in our lifetime when we were younger, it was always Beirut was the example.
Always Beirut. Yeah. That
it's nice to say everything old is new again.
You gotta laugh, right? That Anthony Bourdain episode where he's in Lebanon and then shit kicks off. Remember that one? Yeah.
Yes. That was one of the ones where you're like, dude, you have fucking balls.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, that's a traveler who is it's in his soul to travel.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I have seen the video. It's pretty they're bombing the fuck out of Beirut right now. So I left it in just because I wanted to talk about it a little bit. I don't have a lot
let it soak a little bit. I haven't seen anything more from Iran. Do you have anything about response to what happened on our last show? Is there anything? Have you seen? I mean, I don't see it in the headlines. Have you seen anything in regards to Israel's response to that?
As of right now, it's, all I've read and seen is that they're
coming. They only killed one Palestinian, so who fucking cares? I mean, that was kind of like the way the U.S. is spinning it right now is the same way the U.S. spun it back in April, right? Was April? Was it that long ago?
April, yeah.
Okay, so in April, Iran shot a bunch of rockets towards Israel, and the State Department was like, "Okay, so we're gonna get out in front of the media before Bibi does and just say, Israel, if you're listening, looks like you got out of this. Probably good time to take the high road."
Yeah, no big deal. Nothing to see here.
Yeah,
please move along.
They're kind of doing the same thing now, but all I'm hearing is that Israel is preparing an appropriate response.
That's all I'm hearing as well.
And I don't remember if it was on the hidden track or on this one, but God, it really. I mean, do you have anything here about Syria? Do you know anything about that? So Israel struck a Russian base in Syria. Do you remember? Do you know why? If you don't know why, I'll say it. I've been talking a lot though.
Why they hit the Russian base?
There was a flight from Tehran. There was a cargo flight from Tehran that landed at a base in Syria.
Okay.
That is obviously Hezbollah or Iran proxy controlled.
Right.
Well, not controlled, but influenced, right? So it was a Russian base, and it was a flight from Tehran. And so shortly after that, Israel struck that base where that flight landed, and there was a bunch of fucking secondary explosions, and it's an ammo depot, stuff like that. That's my understanding of it, at least,
Mm-hmm.
And then in response to that, Russia told all of its citizens in Israel to get out.
Oh, I didn't see that.
We're going to have about 5 days before we do another podcast. And I just want to get all our bases covered in case it really does sound like the Germans for once aren't going to start a world war.
Whoa. Did you listen to the Deserter series on the Daily for the Weekend?
No.
I started it.
I didn't. That was about that guy that escaped Russia, right? And they followed him around. Okay, talk to me about it. Talk to me, Goose.
So it starts with his inception of his military career and how he ended up in the Russian military and how disaffected he was with the whole thing and how he, essentially he got promoted to a position where he was sort of in handcuffs because his predecessors had sold everything. They had basically embezzled all of the stuff and sold it. And now,
like we talked about their nukes.
Yeah. And now he's responsible for it. And so now, like, if he tries to leave, they're going to pin it on him. It's all this stuff.
My God. So it's just a shell game kind of, right?
Yeah. And then, so he comes up with a plan to get out. And then the whole Ukrainian war kicks off. And he doesn't want to get deployed there. And he's going to be. And so then he's escaping. I haven't finished it yet.
It was like 2 hours, right? It was like Dan Carlin does a daily episode.
Yeah, exactly. It's broken up into two different
that's right.
pods, yeah. So I haven't finished
Is it
yet.
worth listening to?
I think so. I
felt
found it
too niche for me to like. I was interested, but I was just like, I don't got time for this dog.
I found it compelling just because we know all of the grift and stuff inside of the Russian military and how bad it was and is. But to have a firsthand account of it is just different. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I would recommend it.
Recommendation: the last weekend's New York Times episode.
Yep.
Okay. I like their reporting. I love making fun of the New York Times. They are so.
It is fun.
Yeah.
All right. NORAD condemned and shared video of a Russian fighter jet that flew with it. Speaking of Russia,
it's my turn. NORAD condemned
sorry.
and shared a video of a Russian fighter jet that flew within feet of a U.S. military jet near Alaska, calling it unsafe and unprofessional. And Russia's like, haha, I bet you're scared. You know what? I'm quoting Line Crosser too much.
Have you seen the video?
Yeah, I've seen the video. It sounds
Top
like the
Gun
pilot's
shit.
like, what? Say it. What
It's
does it
Top
sound
Gun shit, dude. It's like,
Top Gun shit, yeah.
it's like they're like right fucking there, dude.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
That's reckless. Yeah, you know what it is, Top Gun shit, in the sense that if he landed, you'd hope he had some commander with a cigar in his mouth being like, what you did up there is unsafe. But, you don't own that plane, the taxpayers do. Your ego is writing checks your body can't cash. I'm gonna look for that in the sheet while you talk.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So NORAD's like, that was reckless. Don't do that.
Right here.
Son, your ego is writing checks your body can't cash.
I'm sure that's not what they told him when he landed.
You have balls. I like balls.
That's what they said.
So this comes as there have been multiple, I would say, close encounters between Russian Navy and aircraft, also Chinese, especially around Alaska. So in sort of international waters bordering on our waters, where these encounters have happened. And man, it's just one of those encounters going bad. And that's
This was close.
This was close, dude.
Like when they say feet, like watch the video, man. Like
it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
What's wild about it is like it looks like a photo at first because both planes are static in terms of like relative motion, and then just guy flies by. Like imagine being that pilot, being like, I mean, I guess the good news is you don't have time to be like, what the fuck, and like like you're just like, well, that was over with the second it happened. Like, what the fuck? Like,
yeah. So between that and the encounters with China, like around the Philippines, and dude, it's
think about the restraint though, right? Like think about how road rage works. It's fight or flight, right? Like if you're walking down the street, if you're just diddy dum diddy do, and walking down the street, popular song reference, and somebody walks past you and narrowly cuts you off, you're like, well, that's a rude fucking person. I can't believe this person did that. There's no threat to your life though, right? So it doesn't elevate unless you're a psychopath to like fight or flight, right?
Right.
But when you're driving and someone cuts you off and it's a matter of feet between your car and theirs, you're like, I don't know why, but I'm irrationally mad right now. And I am like, and if you have less emotional regulation ability, you're like, I'm going to speed up and I'm going to get in front of them. I'm going to throw something in my window. All of that is completely insane, but it is sane when you factor in the fact that your life was just at risk. Like you are moving at a high rate of speed. You could have died, and your fight or flight reflex kicks in, and you stopped. Like this is the lower root part of your brain, not the higher executive functions, right? Takes over, right? Now factor that into going 1,000 miles an hour. I don't know how fast these guys are going, right? Like they're going
hella fast,
muy fast, right?
Muy fast, yes.
And it's just like, you got rockets. Like I got like an old bottle I pissed in next to me in my truck when somebody does that. I don't have to say I've ever done that, but I'm just saying, like I got nothing. Like man, you just like, I could shoot you. Like just the restraint. I mean, these pilots deserve a lot of credit because which is to be expected that they wouldn't overreact, but they deserve the credit.
Well, to your point, the stakes are higher when you move from somebody.
Stakes are high, especially if you're cooking up there.
Somebody cutting you off on the sidewalk. Really no risk to your life. Somebody cutting you off on a freeway, perhaps there is at least bodily injury. There's certainly risk there. But if you're in a fighter jet, there's a lot of fucking risk, bro.
Look, at best I got machine guns. Like I can just let me graze him.
Yeah.
So, negative Ghost Rider.
Very different stakes. But man, we don't need more fucking tension, bro. There's enough there. We don't
Too
need more
hungry if you
encounters
talk
like
about
this.
steaks. Man, we got to come up with a show title. Otherwise, it's going to be 30% penetration or fro. And I don't really like the idea of making cover art for either of those. Want to go on to the next?
Yeah. The Justice Department charged 3 Iranian operatives with hacking the Trump campaign.
Did you see? Was it Ken Klippenstein? One of these like tertiary like muckrakers online. I think he was a left muckraker, right? Is Ken Klippenstein? I see him on Twitter being a cunt all the time, and I think he's a lefty.
I don't.
He's
pay
the one that
attention
shared
to
it,
those
right?
muckrakers very often, but
Say that again.
I don't pay attention to those muckrakers very often, so I don't know who that is.
But the thing is, the reason I say it is so you're talking about how they hacked the Trump campaign, right?
Yes.
And initially we were like, well, is this going to follow the Russian hacking pattern where they start shopping it around to news agencies and eventually someone buys it, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, when's that going to happen? And it didn't. And it eventually settled on some guy on the left being like, you know what? I got it. I'll share JD Vance's home address.
Okay.
That was part of what they shared. Like Twitter banned him for it, and rightfully so. Now, that said, it's hilarious when the guy that's like free speed absolutist is like, well, technically you can't share home addresses with people.
You can't dox people, man.
Which I agree with, but like it's weird. He's like free speed absolute, and then like, well, I guess I shouldn't have put myself into this corner because I actually don't think absolute has the same meaning that apparently it does have.
Definitely not the hill he wants to die on.
Oh, Anita. Oh, and Anita.
Anita Hill.
A hill to. Okay, keep talking. All
right. So these people used really
Anita Hill to die on.
There you go.
That would have been a great joke in 1988.
These guys use very unsophisticated tactics to hack the campaign. These are like spear phishing, social engineering techniques. So
well, yeah, and so you want to say it's not very sophisticated. Well, who's the person they caught?
Roger Stone.
Yeah, okay. They got the boomerest boomer of them all. The guy with the Nixon tattoo on his back is like, what? Free hot MILFs in my area. Hold on.
I mean, I don't even know if I
see in bio. Oh, I gotta see this bio.
I don't even know if I would call this hacking necessarily. This is like
they call it social engineering. Right?
It's scamming. They're scamming. That's what it is. I don't think an actual hacker would be like, no, that's not hacking.
1991, 1988. Sorry,
not close enough. 3 years. You were ballpark.
Yeah, I was a child.
Yeah, same. So yeah, they're saying that these 3 people hired people to do this. Like they didn't even do it themselves. They just had this little conglomerate that they decided to go after.
The Iranians?
Yeah.
So did they charge people in the United States, or who did they charge?
No, just Iranians. Nothing's gonna happen.
Hold on. Oh, wait, so nothing's ever gonna happen then, right? Because they're over in Iran, just being like, okay, well, good news, we weren't going to America anyways.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing's gonna happen. They've done similar like symbolic indictments before.
Do you think there's like one person in the Department of Justice that's like, man, my job is so fucking useless. I've got to call the Israelis and ask them if they'll go kidnap some Iranians. And the Israelis would be like, now? No, we don't. No, I'll kill them in Iran. Like, let me know where they are, and I'll let you know if a bomb's going that way anyway.
Right. We can ship them some pagers. Would that help? I don't know. Do they need any walkie-talkies?
Like the whole pager attack really fucked up the work from home industry in the Middle East, right? Like bosses in the Middle East that were trying to get people back to the office were like, well, oh. This is another one I haven't worked out the joke completely on, but there's a joke there, right?
There's something there.
Right, listeners, if you got the punchline, let me know.
All right. Let's see. I think it's
Sudan.
Yeah.
The Sudan's army. So good news.
Man, I don't know that,
right? There isn't a side to cheer for.
No.
Sudan's army launched a major offensive against the paramilitary rapid support forces in the capital city of Khartoum. Loadmaster, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. I'm calling you out specifically just to get a cool update. This marks the first major operation in months as the civil war and humanitarian crisis continues. So that sounds like it's kind of been at a stalemate for a while.
It has, and the RSF have been in charge of the capital city for almost since the inception of
which is wild because they don't have the air superiority, right?
Right. But the problem is that the number of civilians impacted by this, so it's sort of been stable in the capital for the most part, with the RSF running it. The SAF have had a couple of enclaves, but pretty much nothing has been happening. And now they're attempting to retake the capital. So more and more people are in danger. You have something like 1.5 million people displaced.
Whoa.
No, 10 million people. I'm sorry. 10 million people.
That's an order of magnitude.
Yeah.
You
10
just
million.
moved the decimal over.
Yeah. 10 million people displaced, 150,000 people killed. Chad, Egypt.
How many people killed?
150,000.
This
700.
feels like the genocide we should be carrying. Nope. We should care about all genocides. This seems like the genocide that we should be like, I'm not voting for this president over.
This is definitely the worst humanitarian crisis on the planet, I would say, right now. You have people moving to Chad, to Egypt, to Ethiopia, and
That's
now
you know what you call that, Alan?
internally displaced people.
No, you call that a Chad move.
Oh, it's a Chad, such a Chad move. And now with
Chad
the
move?
conflict,
Write that down.
sure. With the conflict being worse, they're worried about people starving. And I wanted to try.
I mean, they've been worried about the people.
They have, and people have been starving, and also there's been horrific,
like cholera and
well, and also there's been horrific genocidal violence against certain members of the population, sexual
I'm
violence.
just not making jokes. Talk about that.
Sexual violence. I mean, Darfur is a nightmare. But yeah, so if this conflict's kicking off again, and this is sort of the dry season in that area, so sort of this is the time to fight essentially. And so with that kicking off again, it's only going to get worse, and a lot of major aid organizations have left because they're not able to operate safely anymore. So it's pretty much like local grassroots aid organizations that are left trying to pick up the pieces and help people out. It's a terrible situation that doesn't get nearly enough coverage for what's happening there.
I mean, that doesn't sound like there's a side to
there. So I would say
is there anything to be hopeful about in this story?
I would say the RSF is definitely worse when it comes to sort of the more genocidal sexual violence side of it. But
and they're also affiliated with all the groups that we don't like, right?
Yeah, but the SAF ain't great either. And they've committed plenty of war crimes as well.
Right. Their history is not bueno.
They're definitely not good guys.
Their ascension to the position they're in was not something to be ignored.
Yeah, they're definitely not. There's no good guys in this fight. So I guess the best thing you could hope for is they come to some sort of stalemate in the ceasefire, but that seems unlikely. Neither side has any. It's sort of like it's existential for both of them if they agree to.
So how can we make it not existential for them? That's the $1 million question.
That's the $1 million question. I don't know. I mean, the whole reason this happened was because they combined to get rid of the president. They combined for that coup, and then when the SAF leader said, "Hey, RSF, we need to melt your forces into the regular forces," the RSF guy was like, "If I do that, I'm fucked. So I'm not going to do that." And he tried to kick the can down the road, and then they ended up going to war. And so that's essentially why we're here.
God,
so, yeah, it's a really shitty situation.
It's like reading a book and knowing where it's going and being like, how do you like intercept? It's too late. Like we're already past the point where this could have been resolved easily.
And these, the civilian population has been through so much over the last few decades. Like it's just been nonstop. It's brutal.
I remember not believing people when they told me about that. It was like 2007. I was at work, and one of my coworkers was someone who had moved to Detroit as a refugee from there. She told me it, and I was just looking at her with disbelief. I'm like, how do I not know this? Like, how is this not something I'm aware of? Sorry for pounding the desk.
Like the soccer stadium stuff and things like that?
Yeah. I was like, she was telling me things. I was like, I was younger and embarrassingly more brash. I was like, I don't believe you. But it was me like not wanting to believe it and being too young and naive.
Shocked.
Yeah. And it's one of my memories I hate revisiting because I know that I was too insensitive, but it was from a perspective of just complete disbelief.
Right. Yeah, it's difficult to even like to deal with that information when it just feels
well, and we didn't. It got no press here when it happened.
Right.
And then they make a movie, 5 years after that, and it's like, oh yeah, Hotel Rwanda.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Where are we? Okay.
Schizophrenia.
Yeah. Okay. So we're moving into more of the science part of the show. So this is a little bit more lighter.
Remember we
more
used to have like topics, like segments.
I still do.
No, I know. I like that you do that, but it felt forced to do that because then we're like, well, the science subjects are heavy this week.
Right.
It's like, now just number the headlines.
Yeah.
It's better this way. I love it.
Yeah. So I like to do the domestic and then
Yeah.
world and then science and
Yeah.
econ stuff like that. All right. So the FDA approved a new schizophrenia drug. We talked about it on the hidden track a little bit. Created by Bristol Myers Squibb, marking the first novel type of treatment for the disease in over 70
That's
years.
the Lance Armstrong company, right? They supported the Do It for Lance.
They did. So it's interesting. A lot of this article focuses on how much of a cash cow this will be for the company.
Well, because there's only been one way of treating schizophrenia. I think even like BPD was similar, right?
You block the dopamine receptors.
Yeah.
But
that has a bunch of side effects.
the side effects can be really, really
Not having dopamine or
Yeah.
not having receptors for dopamine.
Yeah, it can be really horrific. So a lot of people try those drugs that have been available for a very long time.
Wait, Alan, I have a mental health update.
Yes.
The whiskey's kicked in.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
The vision has changed.
Okay. Well, we're only a few headlines till
Thank
other
God
news.
I'm not driving.
So this drug, it attacks the dopamine differently in that it doesn't block the receptors. It attacks the way, so it reduces the amount of dopamine your brain produces essentially without completely blocking it. So you have less side effects, but still improved brain function. And so they think this, and in trials, it's performed very well, which is why.
Did you read a lot about like how that manifests in people? Because like I know, having gone through therapy as a kid and being ADHD and it was always this thing, and it's not the same thing, but there was always this example of like, you have peaks and valleys, and we would just want to give you a nice level, even it out. That's the way they always talk about it.
Right.
Like, did they talk about that in what you read about this?
They talk about a lot of gastrointestinal side effects that are bad, as well.
Gastrointestinal. Isn't it weird how like your gut
Yeah,
and your
something
brain are
with
so related?
It is odd. Yeah, it is odd. They talk about like just how often patients, once they're on the drugs that exist, after a while, the side effects just are worse than what it fixes for this on the schizophrenia side, and so they just stop taking the drugs. Now, drugs that are available now are pretty inexpensive. They've been around for 70 years. So the patents are all expired. They're generic.
Wait, before you get into that too much, like so much of the problem in what you just described about how the side effects were worse than the actual
disease
is that people had other coping mechanisms, right? Because like this doesn't exist in a vacuum, right? And alcohol is available at every store. So like people,
so is fentanyl.
And fentanyl, this booze in your mouth, is not a good thing on top of this type of mental. I don't want to say mental illness, right? We can say mental illness. It's fine. We're not pussies here. And when the drugs don't give you what you want, and people can go to the store and find a way to cope, that's when you start to see the exacerbated effects of the personality effects from these types of mental illness, right?
Right, because the alcohol and the chemicals make it worse.
Yeah.
Even though it might feel better in the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And like when that's your mindset, your
Yeah.
decision making is being impaired by the way your mind is
Right.
misleading you.
Yeah. Some of the side effects listed are weight gain, excessive fatigue, and involuntary uncontrollable movements. Roughly a third of people,
with the old drugs or the new
the
one?
old drugs, yeah. Roughly a third of people with schizophrenia are also resistant to conventional antipsychotic treatments,
Yeah.
according to the WebMD.
Because they've gone through that and didn't like the way that it.
Right.
Yeah.
Or their body didn't respond to it at all. It didn't.
Oh, that's what resistant means. Like it didn't. How many? A third?
Third, yeah, 33%. So
That's a significant percentage, man.
It is. So this new drug basically has two components. The second component is essentially all about controlling the bad side effects. That's all the second component does. The first component is the one that actually attacks the disease. It activates what's called I'm gonna try this. Muscarinic receptors in the brain that decrease dopamine activity without causing the side effects of shutting down the dopamine receptors entirely. So it's basically a new way to attack the problem similarly but different in a way.
But I'm sure if you drink on top of that, it negates everything.
Didn't say that in the article, but potentially, probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Usually medications like this don't respond well with if you combine them with alcohol or other.
What about operating heavy machinery?
Uh,
That's always fun, right? Take some pills, go operate a forklift.
That's my favorite thing to do on the weekends.
So this sounds positive. This is a good thing.
It is. It's a good thing. The one thing I would say that's not good about it is it's going to cost $22,000 a year to take it.
1,000?
And actually, a lot of this article, which is in CNBC, Financial News Network, right? So a lot of the article focuses on the more of the financial aspects, the business aspects of it, which are going to be good if you're a Bristol Myers Squibb stockholder.
My mouth hasn't closed. 22,000 a year?
Yeah, that's what.
I'd
obviously,
rather be crazy.
Obviously, if you have insurance, Medicare, Medicaid, they're going to pay for a significant portion of that. But just retail, it's $22,000 a year, which is a lot.
A lot of thousands.
And if we talk a lot about the mental health problems in this country and how that leads to violence and how that leads to people on the streets. So if there is an intervention potential like this, but it's inaccessible, that's a shitty situation, So, if you are covered by, Medicare and they're paying for all of it, then I guess, you're okay. But then, taxpayers footing that $22,000 bill too. So it's a lot.
Can you work people in the streets into the rest of what you're saying?
Why do you want to hit a button? People in the streets. All right, I got more science.
I I got other sounds too.
That's more uplifting. All right, this one's fun. You want to hit number 12?
Wait, I got another musical one.
Okay. That would have been more appropriate when we were talking about Russia, but okay.
I forgot about that.
We'll allow it.
Right.
You want to hit number 12, and I'll talk about that. That's
transplanted stem cells. What is this? 2000?
This is interesting technology.
Transplanted stem cells reverse type 1 diabetes for the first time in a 25-year-old female patient. Is this? Hold on. There are no commas in this, so I don't know where to break down how to say this. What modifies what? Is this the first time that it's reversed type 1 diabetes in a 25-year-old female, or is this the first time it's reversed type 1 diabetes ever, and the vessel was a 25-year-old female?
The latter.
Okay.
So
wait,
the first time.
The latter?
No, the first time. The first time. Yes, the first
Don't
time.
get fancy. I don't know what that means. I've never understood what that means. I always have to think when someone says that.
The last one. The last one is what that means.
Well, why don't they say that then?
It's easier to say ladder. All right, so it says stem cells, which you might think, well, how are they getting the stem cells?
I hear stem cells. I think George W. Bush.
So this is a technology I was not aware of.
Stem cells?
No, not stem cells.
CRISPR.
So the way they did this was they take your own cells from you. Not from a baby or an infant. They take your own cells.
They need these fetuses. That's what the whole thing was.
Yeah, and they revert them into what's called a pluripotent state, which is essentially they take cells from you and revert them to be stem cells.
What?
Yes.
They reverse engineer stemmies out of your normies?
Yes. And then they reprogram them to be able to not have the defect that prevents you from being able to create insulin in your pancreas.
See, that makes so much sense.
And then
it's like what do you call it? It's customized to you. There's a fancy word for that when it's like fashion.
Oh, bespoke.
It's bespoke. They're bespoke stem cells.
So then they grow these stem cells in a dish or whatever, and then they implant them into you. Now, typically, if you had stem cells that were from a donor, fetal tissue, you would have to have immunosuppressant drugs in your system, or your body would reject them. However, since
they came from you, they're like, I'm home here.
Now,
prodigal son has returned.
Caveat to that, we don't actually know if that is true because
you can happen to one 25-year-old.
Right, and she was already on
Probably been injected with a lot of DNA. You know what I mean?
She's already on immunosuppressants because she had another organ transplant.
Oh, well, she had an organ. Oh, because she was on the list of
right. So they believe that you wouldn't need to be on immunosuppressants, but this study or this example doesn't prove that necessarily. But just really cool technology.
Yeah.
You can imagine. I mean,
the applications of that, like that, this seems to give credence to that methodology being effective in a lot of other ways.
If they could regrow you a liver, god damn,
dog, if they can cure diabetes,
dude, that's huge.
That'd be worth $22,000.
Oh, that's trillions of dollars.
Oh.
I mean, diabetes is a huge problem.
No, I'm at one person. I'd do that once.
Oh, I understand. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I used to, in my previous job, we would do charity drives for juvenile diabetes, and it was a cause I really believed in and got behind, because it's horrible. And people think diabetes is like, oh, well, you just have.
I got to take a shot. I can't eat too much sugar.
Or they blame people because they're like, oh, well, you have a shitty diet. You drink too much soda.
Yeah. You like your Snickers bars. It's all
that's
your fault.
Often, most of the time, that is not the case. It's
look, even
genetic.
if it's true, juvenile diabetes. I mean, that's like childhood cancer. It's like God can't be real. This can't happen with a just God.
Right. Juvenile diabetes is genetic. It has nothing to do with their diet. They're born like that.
Their parents did. God is real.
So, anyways, very promising technology. I hope to hear more about it in the future. All right, we got
that is fascinating, dude. Wow.
Yeah,
this is gonna be a long show. I'm okay with it.
Me too. All right, we got one more science headline.
Subjects. Am I too interrupty? I know I am.
No, we're good.
It's a lighthearted, fancy free interrupty.
Yes.
Okay,
we're good. All right. Scientists
again or no?
No. Scientists mapped the brain of a fruit fly in the first.
Wait. Hold on.
Lighthearted, fancy free.
Bzz, hi, I'm a fruit fly.
Fagatoga.
Okay, let me try again. In the first complex
fruit club over here.
In the first complete map of a complex animal's brain to date.
They call it a fruit fly, a complex. They're gonna figure out why he keeps buzzing around inside my car. He won't leave, even though every time. So this animal is so fucking dumb. It can't leave my car, but every time I go to swat it, it's agile enough to get away from my hand.
That's actually part of the study is why they're so good at that. So what you have to understand is we're talking about a brain the size of a pinhead. This thing is super small.
Way smaller. Oh, pin dot.
Yeah. However, they're able to map every single one of its 130,000 cells and 50
cells. Dumb little
50 million connections. 50 million. They were able to map. So essentially, we have a wiring diagram to the brain of a fruit fly.
It's hard to say, especially if you've been drinking.
Yeah. So we have a wiring diagram to the brain of a fruit fly now. And scientists are like, this is huge. We've never had anything like this before.
I've never had it.
And they actually
future generations are going to be so disappointed in us. We're like,
so they're able to map like their visual cortex and other things.
Wow.
And essentially, the reason that it's so hard to swat a fruit fly is because it's an automated response. It just happens. They don't even have to think about it. When they sense something coming from one direction, their muscles force them to go the other direction like automatically. It just happens.
Guess what?
So so it might seem like a pretty small thing to have done, but prior to this we only had maps of brains of like worms and shit, which are nothing. This is like you can actually see stuff happening here.
How are worms nothing but a fruit fly is something? Oh, because they're dumb old worms.
These things are flying and walking.
I see.
Worms.
Okay, yeah, I've heard it. Yeah,
they have.
Oh yeah, worms don't even have eyes.
Right. Yeah. So there's a lot more going on here. So scientists are really stoked about this, and I think it's really cool. And if you look at the there's a picture. Oh, they use AI, by the way, to figure a lot of this out. Although AI had to be helped by humans because AI fucked up a lot, so they had to manually correct a lot of stuff too.
Can you elaborate on that? I don't care if the show goes long.
I don't have a lot to elaborate. All I can say is that the AI was initially used to try to sort this out, and then humans had to come in and by hand fix the mistakes that were made by the AI.
But that made it so much easier.
Oh yeah. Oh, it would probably take decades and decades.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. decades and decades for
Dude,
people to
is
figure
just
this out
gonna
on
keep
their own.
happening, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, probably.
It's just
So
like making a show cover. It's like, give me an idea, I'll fix it.
right. So to
It's
look at this
just
thing,
like making a show cover.
to look at this thing visually, like I want this poster on my wall. It's really cool looking.
Really?
Yeah. If you click the link, the picture's right there. If you click on the link that's next to it.
Stem cells one? Got it.
Not the stem-
diabetes.
No, the fruit fly.
I know. I needed to correct diabetes.
It's a black back-
that's pretty
right?
wild.
Pretty cool, right? All the wires.
Yeah.
That's 50 million wires.
50 what?
50 million connections. 50 million connections of all those wires.
All inside of that dumb little thing inside my truck.
Yep.
Because I parked next to a loading dock and there's a dumpster there.
Yep.
Wow.
It's really
Dude,
cool.
I could stare at this for a long time.
Should I present it real quick, just so people that are watching the video?
Oh, good point. Yeah. Thank you. Now, when you say present it, you're not asking me to show you my penis, right?
No, I'm
Okay.
not. Yeah, so that's what it looks like for the viewing audience. You can see, doesn't that look really cool? Like that looks like a galaxy, but cooler. I don't know.
Yeah, but also like a Pollock painting.
Yes,
It does
Yeah.
look like it does. It looks like billions and billions of stars.
it's very cool, and that's the brain of a fruit fly.
And that's nothing too, right? That's just a big
That's
dummy.
That's just a big dummy that flies around and annoys you.
Wow.
Probably live
This,
what those,
I thought this story was going to suck.
those things don't even live that long. I think they live like a few weeks or something.
Well, that's longer than I would have guessed. Speaking of people that lived longer than I would have guessed, Governor Gavin Newsom, who I thought was dead in the middle of COVID when he went to the
French Laundry.
French Laundry,
Yeah.
vetoed a high-profile. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about this an hour and 26 minutes, and
We're gonna hit it quick.
glasses of monkey shoulder into the
Real
show.
quick, real quick.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I got a lot of thoughts. I got a lot of complex thoughts, Alan. Let's see what happens.
Okay.
Close this.
Oh yeah.
California Governor Gavin Newsom vetoed a high-profile AI safety bill. This is not the one I thought it was. This guy's been busy. We'll talk about another one. So he vetoed an AI safety bill that would have enacted the first in the nation regulation against AI safety. He vetoed it.
Mhm.
But he also drew notable pushback. This is all you. I thought it's just something else. I'm going to bring something else up when it's my turn to talk again.
Okay. So I'll just hit this quickly. We are late in the show, but so essentially, this regulation was sort of half of Silicon Valley was on the side of, and the other half wasn't. So like Google and I think OpenAI were on the side against it, and then X and maybe Meta were on the side for it. I don't know, something like that, half and half. And what Newsom said was essentially that this was too broad, and he wanted to see it narrowed. So this would apply to any form of AI, and he said, no, we're going to stifle innovation if we do that. This should apply to AI that actually has
This can't be right. I agree with Gavin Newsom.
yeah, that actually has potential to cause, societal harm. So the AI that controls the stoplights doesn't need to be concerned about this. And so that's why he said,
I've seen Die Hard 4. You better make sure that AI is under lock and key. Like, yeah.
Yeah. So that was basically it. What were you thinking it was about?
The one about the voter ID.
Oh, okay. What are your thoughts?
Why don't you pretend like you have a headline about voter ID? You know about that, right?
So the voter ID didn't go through because wait, what are you talking about?
So they put in a law. So there were already laws in California that in certain counties or certain precincts, you could ask for voter ID. And they made a state law that had two parts to it. One was a blanket statement saying you can't ask for ID when people vote. And the second part was why it was a statewide, why it could be a state decision. They put like why this affects enough people and why we get to say this from a state level, which I'm not getting into the minutia of that. But I don't know, man. Like, I agree with the sentiment of people that say that a voter ID law in the past has been tied to people that were kind of extenuating. Yep. Jim Crow laws. Like, I get that. I 100% get that. I get that. And that's why knee-jerk reaction, I've always been against voter ID laws.
Mm-hmm. Similar.
I don't think that it's a bad thing to have the same level of security over voting as you have over buying a bottle of alcohol or going into a bar where they sell alcohol. Now, you can make the argument that that is a choice to go into a bar and it's not a civil liberty like voting. But I would counter that with maybe we can actually go a step further and give you a civics fucking lesson. And if you can't pass this questionnaire, you don't get to fucking decide who gets to govern us. Because I think it might surprise you who that would affect more than others. I think we might have less like R-worded politicians in office that just prey upon the ill-informed and people that didn't pass a civics class and think that Kamala Harris has been president for 4 years because she's been the vice president. Like, I think it actually might be a good thing to limit our voting populace to the people that have any fucking clue about how the government actually works.
Yeah. So the problem with that is that
what you're about to describe is the world you've lived in your entire life in California. They got rid of that and said you can't have an ID. So whatever you're going to say is going to say everything I've been doing has been horrible, and they've just had fraudulent elections until now.
No, wait, no.
I'm listening.
I've never had to show my ID to vote.
You could have. Well, I had to prove that I was who I was because I showed up to a polling place where I wasn't registered for.
Oh,
you can't do that anymore.
So I had to show up to my polling place and find my name on the thing, and then
you didn't have to show an ID. I know.
Right. And then now I just vote by mail. They send me the thing, and I just fill it out.
Their argument is if you've already gone to the extent of registering and proving who you are by registering, then you shouldn't have to do it when you go to vote. And if you vote twice, they get rid of the second vote. I get that argument. I'm just saying I see no harm in saying, hey, this is a thing that's important to all of us. Let's just double check who you are before you say who you are and you vote as who you are. I don't think that's a fucking problem.
Yeah. I always go. So the state of California has a website where you can go and check to confirm that you're still registered. And I check mine every 2 years.
We got one of those here. Yep. I
check it to make sure because I want to make sure.
I don't want to show up day of and find out I'm on the roll. Yeah.
Yeah. So
you know what? I think you should be allowed to vote.
Right. Yeah. So I guess the problem with what you're suggesting is that historically, anytime things like that have been enacted, they've been used by certain groups of people to prevent other groups.
Nobody's enacting anything. They're negating an existing thing.
And I think that voting is such.
Shut up. Do you hear what I just said?
So when you talk about Jim Crow, what is getting late in the show? Jim Crow laws in the South.
I haven't even seen you drink. Are you okay?
I'm fine.
Did you quit drinking? Hold on. What's going on? You driving somewhere?
No,
it's been hidden by the background. Okay.
No. So
right now you're one of them sobers. I'm going to be. Go on.
Oh man, I have a whole other tangent to go on, but I'm not going to do that.
Why? You're going to do that? You're going to try it?
No. No, Doug Stanhope was on Are You Garbage? And he's like, I have never done a performance with sober in my entire career.
That's a big shock.
Yeah. It was so funny. He was on the show drinking like a tall can of Michelob Ultra. Anyways, yeah,
it was like 6 of those before you feel anything.
Yeah,
Go on. I'm sorry. So historically, when those laws have been enacted, even though we're talking about negating existing laws that had that in place.
Well, but so I've never lived in I never lived in a county or city where that was a thing. So I don't know. But so apparently there were cities and counties in California, you're saying, that did do that.
The potential was there where you might have to prove who you are.
Okay.
Dude, I got a great workaround for this that I don't think there's any way to shoot down.
Okay.
If someone shows up and you're suspicious about who they are and you don't prove their ID, right? But there's a weird circumstance where you would have asked for their ID, right?
Yeah.
You put those in a pile, you
check it retroactively.
No, you just report them in a separate column. And then if the election becomes suspicious, you have a column that you review for fraud.
I mean,
okay. So you don't need this law that says anybody can vote. It doesn't matter.
And so if there's an election where the winner wins by 347 votes and you have 450 people in that column, then you check it.
Yep.
If you don't, then if they won by 10,000 and there's 400 people there, you don't worry about it.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's
okay. But nobody wants to think about that because they'd rather have these culture wars to fight over.
Well, because I think that people who are so anti all of that are just really, really scared about the potential for that to be manipulated. And we've seen it happen so many times and in the past. And even if you look at what happened in 2020, like the bald-faced attempts to manipulate that election and what the Trump campaign did.
You don't want to
brings
give
a
an
lot of
inch to
news.
the people because clearly the people that are screaming election frog, the loudest frog,
Frog?
the
Election
people that are
fraud?
saying election frog the loudest are the people that are the ones implementing it. I mean, I only say that because every time they look into election frog, the only examples they can come up with are Republicans. And these
Hold
are
on
from
1 second. 1 second. Somebody just knocked on my door. Okay.
Oh, that doesn't happen. Is it your neighbor? Did he fall down the stairs? Let me know if his cat's okay.
Give me 1 second.
Okay. I'm going to read the next headline without Alan, and he'll come back and comment on it. I can't wait to see what happened at the door. OpenAI raised 6 points. He knows this headline, so it's okay. I can talk about it without him. Do you see this kitty cat over here, guys? Got to join the Patreon. How do I move my hand in the video backwards? There it is. OpenAI raised $6.6 billion in new funding, marking the largest venture capital deal ever. That's a lot of billions, and valuing the firm at there's a lot. Okay, $157 billion. Thrive Capital is they led the round, so that's the largest contributor with participation from Microsoft, Nvidia, and SoftBank and others. I just read the headline. I know you already read 15, so that's a lot of billions. What happened? Are the cats okay?
Yeah.
Is your neighbor's skin intact?
Everything's okay. Everything is all right. Yeah. So OpenAI,
$157 billion is a lot.
yeah, it's a massive amount. So interesting things happening at OpenAI. Their CTO just resigned. They lost
Technology officer.
Yeah, and they lost another person recently too. That
Why?
was part
Are they worried about the machines, Alan?
they in their public statements they just say I want to focus on other things.
I need to spend time with my family.
That's the usual statements.
Yeah. You see this
typic-
kitty cat eating over here?
I do see it. Yeah.
He's such a big chubster.
So this is a lot of money. Elon Musk's XAI just raised like $6 billion recently, so they even surpassed that at 6.6. When you get to this kind of fundraising, a lot of the VCs are out because they don't have the kind of pockets to
No, I know. Yeah, we're down to they've even said that, right? They've talked about it. They're like,
was very small pool of people or businesses that can actually come up with that.
They won't even ask for money. Like small donors don't even matter at this point. Like donors.
Yeah. So
that paradigm is worth dwelling on. I don't think we have time to, but the consequences of this company now being led by the BlackRocks and they didn't even say Thrive Capital, Microsoft, Nvidia, SoftBank. Those
Apple even in on this.
Hey, Apple. Those are Apple's not in it because they've got Apple Intelligence.
Right.
It starts with an A, and we can make AI be Apple Intelligence.
Right.
Buy your new iPhone with Apple Intelligence. It's different than everybody else's. It's Apple.
Hey, Apple.
Hey, Apple.
Yeah, so pretty big deal. Yeah, I don't know. It's just massive amounts of funding going into this technology, which who knows what it's going to do. But I mean, we're already seeing AI's impacts on things like mapping fruit fly. Brain.
Can I ask you a question that was a really big deal like 2 years ago, and it recently crossed my mind that it stopped being important? And I'm sure it's going to incorporate AI in it. But don't you remember that before AI broke through, all anybody would ever talk about was the metaverse?
Yeah, I do.
Whatever happened to that?
So actually, they just it's not released on the market yet, but they just came out with a new VR headset.
A new?
Yeah, at Meta.
Glad I didn't do that last one.
They dropped the price point to like $300. They're trying to make it more accessible.
Yeah. I thought that was the same one at a lower price. That's a new one at a lower price?
Yeah, it's a new one at a lower price.
That's smart.
Yeah, they're trying to come out. All these wearables, like the glasses, like the Google glasses and stuff like that, sort of haven't really done very well, but they still seem to think that that's
just have to keep it going long enough to bridge the gap until they can really do the thing. Like it's still not doing the thing yet.
They think that's the new version of your laptop or your cell phone. They think that's going to be the next.
But it's clearly going to be like, we don't like it yet.
Right.
Like the thing that turns into is going to be the thing, but we're not there yet. And they're just going to burn a lot of capital.
The problem is that with those wearables is to to make them comfortable to wear, they have to shrink everything down. And to do that with that technology is really difficult. So
Right.
what they're doing mostly now is either making it really bulky and uncomfortable, or they have like a secondary thing where most of the compute is at. That you
Ooh,
have
that's
to wear.
clever. So you
Or
could
I
have
mean,
one wire that goes off to the side somewhere
yeah,
or something.
goes to the battery in the main, processing area or memory storage.
You hear this guy?
I do. So they are they're working on the technology. So as regards to AI though, certainly a lot of potential, but god damn, it's a lot of money. And also people don't talk about this enough, the power consumption from all this AI.
I think people talk about that enough, honestly.
Insane. Yeah, I guess they do. I mean, that's why they're
Oh no, talk about it though.
that's why they're restarting 3 Mile Island, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah. Loadmaster had a good point that that 3 Mile Island was retrofitted recently, so it is
it's the new version, right?
Yeah, it is a new version. Yeah,
It's the good stuff.
it's the good.
Okay.
It's the good news.
All right.
Hey, he's going after my beard. Oh, he's going after my beard. He thinks I'm a kitty cat. He's like, oh. Alan, talk. I'm gonna play.
All right. In other news,
Join the Patreon. $3 a month. You can watch the cat.
You can watch the cat play with Dustin's beard. All right. So this story is funny. So you said please include as many details. This is rancher gets 6 months in prison for scheme to create giant sheep hybrid.
Frankensheep.
Yeah, Frankensheep. So this guy imported cells from God damn it, New York Times. They want me to set my preferences for my subscription, and I don't.
So this guy, I saw something his lawyer said in his defense, and it was something along the lines of hunting this sheep in like where did he hunt it? Like Kyrgyzstan or something?
Kyrgyzstan. Yeah, that's where they imported.
Really? He said like he lost his mind hunting this sheep. Please tell me. I only heard about this. I didn't have the benefit of reading the New York Times article.
So 81-year-old Montana rancher was sentenced to 6 months in federal prison for running a nearly decade-long scheme in which he basically created these hybrid sheep to be used for hunting at like preserves like in Texas and things like that where people go to
I
hunt.
saw something about oversized testicles in this.
So these things are massive, and what he did was he imported like the balls or something of one of these sheep to the US, and then he sent it to a lab to get like sperm cells, and then he got this hybrid male sheep, and then used the sperm of those to make more hybrids with like other sheep in Montana that are big to make the super massive sheep that would be cool for a hunter to kill in Texas at a hunting lodge.
Well, why is this illegal?
So the one he imported from Kyrgyzstan is an internationally recognized endangered species, and so you can't fuck with them. You can't import them. And you also there's concern about making hybrid sheep in Montana. There's laws against that. Well, all over the country, but Montana specifically, they're worried about it because of the impact it might have on native species.
It's an invasive species of massive sheep.
Right. So he broke all kinds of laws. And the judge was like, look, he's 81. We're going to give him 6 months. We're going to fine him $200,000. And the guy's like, I'm sorry.
It's funny to think about our current president being that age. It's being like, hey, be nice on him. He's not going to live much longer.
It's true. So yeah, he pled guilty, and that's I don't know. Frankensheep, yes.
So new sheep just dropped.
New sheep just dropped. This thing is fucking massive, dude. It's like a dinosaur sheep.
Do you have a picture of it? You said it like you were looking at one. It's okay if you haven't.
No, there is a picture. I don't think it's the hybrid one. I think this is just the one from Curious.
That's just a big sheep in general. Nobody's going to be impressed by just a picture of a big sheep. I want to see the Frankensheep. If it's not Frankensheep, I'm going to be disappointed. By the way, you said abominable earlier, and it didn't have to do with snowman. That looks like a big sheep.
It's a big sheep.
Yeah, but that looks like when they talk about a ram or something. It's like what I picture. It looks like that.
Yeah, it's a big sheep.
That's a big looking sheep.
All right.
That media diet.
Sure, I
saw anything in here from you. You keep.
I saw a terrible movie on Netflix called The Lift. Starring Kevin Hart. It's a heist movie.
I watched that movie and I didn't talk about it on here. I agree with you.
It's fucking awful.
It was so bad. It was like, I like heist movies. You can't do a bad heist movie.
So did you notice the production? One of the producers of the movie was Heartbeat Productions.
That's Kevin Hart.
It's Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
So I suspected it was Kevin Hart, and I was like, okay, so your production company is producing a movie wherein you're the star,
Yeah.
and you're the guy that the pro tag that gets the girl at the end and the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And it was
I mean, that's not shocking.
It's so formulaic and so shitty.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, let me make sure. I assume it's Heartbeat Productions is Heart because it's spelled H-A-R-T.
Yeah.
It's a good assumption, right? So
Yeah.
I Googled it. I looked. So I get to Heartbeat Productions website and I go to the About page. Guess what's on the top of the About page?
Kevin Hart's big face.
There's 3 words.
Oh, but Puff Daddy Productions.
Live, laugh, love.
Oh, fuck off.
I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Jesus. You know what would be better than that?
What?
Come, honor, and faith. Because I think of Mike Tyson saying it. No. Wait. Duty, honor, and faith. Faith.
Faith.
Because I think about Mike Tyson's duty, honor, faith. Faith.
That
Duty,
was
honor, faith. Okay.
All right. How about you, man? What did you watch?
Well, first of all, Natasha likes to have shows to watch while I'm in here doing the podcasts.
Yeah.
And the last few times we've done a show, I've come out and she's like, I've been watching that Menendez show. You sure were right to punch out. I'm like, why are you still watching it? She's like, I'm just a completionist. I'm like, well, I get that, but like, she said everything I said was right. Like, it takes way too long, and they just keep touching. They're like, hey, I know we told you earlier that the dad sexually assaulted the sons. Did you know that, by the way?
Mm-hmm.
I know it was alleged. I forgot about that. But so, yeah, the dad, according to all accounts, sexually assaulted the kids. And we could use Puff Daddy words, but I don't want to say rape anymore. So, but the problem is what I identified in the first episode where they like take forever to say something and then they go back and tell you again. They do that with things that you don't want to have to deal with handling again, right? It's like 5-6 times telling you that, like, by the way, the dad sexually abuses his kids. It's like, and then they're like, but let's do it again and we'll introduce doubt. And then we'll do it again where we remove the doubt. It's like, this is a 3-hour story and you're making it 9 fucking episodes, you know? But anyways, no, don't watch Monsters on Netflix. I watched a movie last week. I told you about Apple TV movie starring Matt Damon and Ben Affleck's brother Casey Affleck.
Oh yeah.
And it was in Boston, and it was like, hey, you guys like, Afflecks and Damons and Boston and movies. I'm sure you're going to like this thing we made. I don't even remember what it was called. Instigators. And I told you it was fine, right?
Yeah.
Especially it's good if you're a Damon Affleck completionist, right?
Right.
In that same way, Wolves. Now, I spelled it correctly. It's not spelled wolves. It's wolves. WLFS. Wolves. Okay. Wolves. It's about, I'm not going to spoil anything. It's about 2. Remember Mr. Wolf in Pulp Fiction? Was it Mr. Wolf?
Yeah, Mr. Wolf.
Yeah, Mr. Wolf in Pulp Fiction was the guy that like cleans up the crime scene, makes it all go away for you.
Yeah,
it's a fixer. So it's about 2 fixers.
Oh, I think I've heard of this.
One of them is George Clooney. The other one is Brad Pitt. So I'm telling you,
I've heard of this.
There's a Brad Pitt. It just came out. Just came out on the 27th. So it's a Brad Pitt Clooney movie. So, it's got all the chemistry you expect from them. It's got all the witty banter and good writing that you expect from them with the dialogue. So it hits in that way. So like if you're going to play on your phone and you're, especially if you're a completionist for these types of movies, and you want some Ocean's 11-ish type dialogue, maybe, you're going to be satisfied in that way. It's got plot holes that honestly are forgivable and kind of like, I know you're going to tie this all together with a big twist at the end that'll probably have a plot hole that I have to look over. I expect that in movies, it'll
be better than The Lift for sure.
Yes. Yeah. But there's just, and I said this last time, there's something about these Apple movies that have something missing from them that I don't know how to put my finger on. Like it's really in the Instigators, it was the fact that they had car chases that weren't exciting.
Yeah.
And in this, it's like, you got crime scenes and fixers, and in ways where it's like, it's an ego contest where it's like, I'm the only person in the world that can do this. And then the very next scene, this guy shows up and he's like, what are you doing here? Well, I'm here to fix this. It's like, There's only one person in the world
There's
that can
only
do
one
this.
guy.
Yeah. So there's that ego part of it, which is really fun because it's Clooney and Brad Pitt, right? And you know, if you have Apple Plus, I recommend you watch it. If you don't have Apple Plus, don't sign up to get this. But whenever you can see this for
Sign up
free,
to get Slow Horses, and then you get that ancillary.
I'm never going to go back to Slow Horses, man. I gave them 4 episodes. That's way too much time. You can't tell me season 2 is where it gets good. By the way, we're on season 4 of The Sopranos. Really loving The Sopranos again. Like rewatching it's been fantastic. Season 4, there's this whole thing where Silvio starts like pissing off Tony somehow, and I don't remember how that wraps up. And I'm like, why is he doing this? And I don't know. Man, if you haven't watched The Sopranos in 20 years, I really recommend you going back to it. It is.
I started rewatching it, but I kind of paused because I was doing.
Take your time with it.
Yeah.
I mean, don't watch it in a hurry.
Yeah.
And we've kind of had a routine where we watch a couple of sitcoms, and our sitcom rotation right now has been like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, The Larry Sanders Show, go to bed. Like we watch something heavy, and then we're like, oh, we got to go to bed in an hour. Don't watch another Sopranos. We'll watch something lighthearted. So we watch a Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and then Larry Sanders Show. We're running out of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Guys, if you do have sitcom recommendations, I'm always looking for it because we just need that lighthearted, fancy-free thing at the end of the night. Hey, I'm looking at the time. This is excessively long, even for a Friday show.
Yes.
In celebration of Jimmy Carter's 100th birthday, I wanted to point out a couple of things that are younger than Jimmy Carter. The state of Hawaii, the state of Alaska, Disneyland, I believe the Buffalo quarter or Buffalo penny or Buffalo nickel, maybe
Nickel.
is younger than him. I wanted to have a quick little game with you. Do you want to Google what is the time difference between when did Captain Cook, when did the Polynesians discover Hawaii? And when did Captain Cook discover Hawaii? What's that time difference? And what is a smaller time difference? That difference, or when between the difference between Captain Cook discovering Hawaii and today?
Okay, it says between 940 and 1130, the Polynesians discovered.
Okay, and that'd be like 700, 17. When does Captain Cook? 1600, 1500? I just said 17. That's way too late. Captain Cook was like 1500s.
1778.
What? Okay, well that's way off then. This is not going well. What is the what year did the Wonder Years portray?
Oh, like 1950s, right?
Yeah, but what year? Also, I have an end of show sound to end things that has to do with old boomers being confused by things. So it's all going to come together, even if this crashes and burns. So the TV show The Wonder Years, what time period did it portray?
Oh, it says 68 to 73.
68. When did The Wonder Years come out?
1988.
So I can
20
do
years.
this. Nah. 20?
Yeah.
So we're further from The Wonder Years than the time period it portrayed.
Yes.
I'm gonna go take a fucking nap. I have a clip for you to end the show, and sorry for being anticlimactic, but I think I burned all my good jokes earlier. So in lieu of a witty joke, I will play this and hit stop. Alan, it's been real. I'll talk to you after my birthday. I'll be 42 next time I talk to you.
Hell yeah.
Cheers.
Is red hot chili peppers a slang word for homosexual?
I love America. Y'all let me in this damn house.
Oh, how about that?
Come in the name of peace.
LMFAO. So what in the world is this?
Trump's pee-pee.
Why would you say something that stupid?
I come without explanations or solutions.
See you next time.
I'm a very sexy lady.
Cat turd.
I will not suffer this harlot. How great! An anti-American Marxist.
Ted Cruz, go fuck yourself.
Read the news.
China is asshole.
God bless the United States.
Now this is
Podcasting.